We're back. I answered the door, and we are discussing right now the transition that Abshalom made from all of the great masters, the teachers that his father, Sun Ra, and what they imparted to him. And the question was, how did all of that jive with the community? Becoming a part of the community, were you able to take what you had learned and evolve with it in the community, or was there a difference? Was there a conflict in any of that at all? The progression of the music.
I wouldn't say it was an outward conflict. It was an inner conflict for me, in terms of when I arrived here as a strict disciple of Brother L.A. Bryant, later to be known as Prince Dr. Shliach Ben Yehuda out of Chicago, came as one of his disciples. And I arrived here in 1971, in July, as a matter of fact, July 16th to be accurate. Prior to that, I had, being in Philly, I had made the first two European tours that Sun Ra had ever done. And the last European tour, it was a 9-nation tour. So we had traveled, and as a youngster doing and being able to do creative, expressive music, I came along with my great comrade and friend and brother, who was later to be known as Prince Elihu, Nasik Elihu. We came with ideas, wanting to do something innovative, creative, and something different in terms of music coming to the community. So at that time I was living in Mitzpah, Ramon, 1971. Elihu and his younger brother Aman, who's a great dynamic performing artist, tenor saxophone, living in Dimona, they would come to my home in Mitzpah, Ramon, which was at that time, it was like a remote place. And we would sit down and discuss ideas, how we're going to do some innovative and creative music. And so later, at one point, we get a visitation. They come to Mitzpah with, at that time, because it wasn't any what are known as Nisikim or Sarim or Prince and ministers. We were just brothers. So Brother Keskiahu came, and he began to explain about a band that they had in Liberia called the Soul Messengers. It was him, a brother by the name of Shabbat, and Yehuda. Yehuda was the guitarist, Shabbat was a vocalist, Shabbat, and Brother Keskiahu was singing as well. So he said that we need to put together a band, and a soul band, because that's what the people would be able to identify with, because at that time James Brown was rampant. And that was a strong something here, and that's what Prince Keskiahu had been singing. He had been doing James Brown material, so he was very popular in this region. He was singing James Brown because he was the only black performing artist at that time. So quite naturally we came together and said, that's what it's going to be, because we came to do some music. So we formed the Soul Messengers, and later the parts began to come together. Myself playing saxophone, alto, Aman playing tenor, Elihu on bass, and then another brother came, Eliakim. He had a trombone. He had played trombone in high school, so we had the trombone. Then we got another younger brother that finally came to Israel some years later. Amnon, he was trumpet, so that was the horn section. There was another brother that came, Shlomo. He became the drummer. Before that, we had another brother that was from the islands that was our drummer before we got Shlomo. I forget his name now. And then for one season, it was Brother Navia played drums, the greater Navia, the percussionist. And so then we had the percussion with Shamor and Navia. Anyway, to make a long story short, I always wanted to do the creative music. Elihu did. It became a frustration for me internally, in terms of not being able to progress, because wasn't no jazz clubs around. The only jazz club that existed at that time was a place like, it was one in Jerusalem called, it'll come back to me. And then there was one in Byblos, Biblos. Biblos was in Jerusalem. Was it Biblos?
Okay.
Anyway, it was one in Tel Aviv. Mm-hmm. So we lived so far, and there wasn't nowhere to stay. But we got invited, and at a point we would go to Tel Aviv, and I began to meet different jazz musicians in Tel Aviv. Mm-hmm. But it would be very infrequent that I would communicate with them, and then going to Tel Aviv was like really out of the question in those years. So it was a lot of frustration for me in terms of doing what I thought I would be able to do here. And so I was like on the back burner, and it created a lot of internal
conflict.
Okay, so on that level, it's not so. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. So are you saying that in addition to the artistic frustration that you were experiencing, you really weren't able to make a living as a musician?
Oh, no.
Because
no,
you had to work.
Yeah, we worked construction because that was the only thing that was available to us. But we had a lot of shows at the Soul Messengers, mm-hmm. and the funds that were generated from that went forth to take care and finance the city of Arad. Mm-hmm. So it was a collective mm-hmm. effort. So no, we never got anything monetarily from the performances that we did as a collective, as an ensemble.
So your artistic creativity was somewhat diminished when you got to Israel. The creative process.
At that level of my understanding, yeah. Mm-hmm. There were some other things, obviously, that I was supposed to acquire, but I didn't understand that in my level of understanding at that point in this, that was 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. I've been here now, I did my sojourn 40 years plus. I'm here 40 years. I'm here, this will be my 43rd year here.
Okay, so, I don't know whether or not you consider yourself a member or ex-member, or how do you look at yourself now in terms of your association with the community?
I see myself as a part of the community. I'm not as active mm-hmm. In certain areas. I have grown to understand that I have the privilege to disagree
yes.
with certain things, and so the greatest change, I can't change anybody in the community or I have to change myself. Yes. So I'm working with self-development at this point in terms of change, because as we see globally, change is affecting all of the institutions, all of the governments, and so the government of the kingdom of Yah is being affected and infected.
As well.
Affected and infected by change. Mm-hmm. So when you are not able to move with change as I'm learning it, it creates dis-ease. Mm-hmm. It creates fear, doubt, uncertainty, and we can see the effects of these attributes, these emotions, mm-hmm. as for my neuro-linguistical understanding, which is a perception, because everybody will perceive things differently. This is just my neuro-linguistical concept relative to the community, that change is taking place. So I see myself as a part of the community to that degree. Mm-hmm. Based on that, mm-hmm. I have my concepts, and so.
Okay, so have you been producing a lot of your own music?
Yeah, absolutely. I've not stopped doing that.
Okay.
I have a lot of things. I'm looking forward to going in the studio in the next couple of weeks to record 4 more songs to do an additional album. Mm-hmm. So we were blessed to do some traveling last year, a little extensively. We were invited back by the Sunrise Orchestra, which was a tremendous outlet for me. Yes. We were in Paris, we were in Switzerland, and in Italy. Mm-hmm. I got documentation on all of that, and it was the first time. It was a multi-million-dollar enterprise mm-hmm. laid out, and we did 2 concerts, and we did workshops there, and I was reunited, but it was only 3 people that I knew from the original orchestra. Uh-huh. One was a young boy that I knew his dad. He was a great artist mm-hmm. in Chicago. His name was Tyler Mitchell. Mm-hmm. And when I knew Ty, he was a little bitty boy. I didn't know he played bass, but he's a fantastic bassist. and we hooked up.
Yes.
And that was my roomie. So he's playing with the orchestra and doing a lot of things in New York. He lives in New York at this point. The other two people was my mentor, Grandmaster Marshall Allen. He was conducting the orchestra. He's 88 years old now.
Oh my goodness.
And then the other guy, Pico, Danny Thompson. Funny.
Okay. Now I have to interject something here. Now I've seen videos, you know, little excerpts, and you've told me about this tour that you made. Tell everybody the extent of this tour. How many people were involved with this?
Like I said, it was a multi-million-dollar project enterprise. It was 25.
25 of you.
25 of us, which included dancers, dynamic dancers, poets. It was because there was a script writer. She had done Akhenaten, and they did it in German, and it was a male, female actor, actress. And they did, and we did, part of the ensemble did the background music for them, along with the dancers and everything. So we had costumes and everything that was made for us, and it was fantastic.
That must have really been, you were back on the block at that.
I was beyond the block.
You were really inspired.
It was overwhelming. I mean, we had, it was 2 weeks, and for the first week, I hadn't been in a cycle of rehearsing every day for 4 and 5 hours just playing music. Just rehearsing like the job.
Right.
And then to get paid without my salary.
Right.
My celery or salary.
Right.
I had never been compensated like that in this dispensation. Like what, and if you're looking, brothers, you did it. They compensate. The orchestra, it was, I mean, spiritually, we had a lot of fun just being interacting
and music is something that is supposed to be inspiring. Music is one of the highest art forms. It's a form of self-expression that it should not be stifled.
It's supposed to be motivational, inspirational. Uplifting, and a level of bringing people back to Yahweh, the Creator. In other words, using the term God, for most people that like God, bringing people back to the holiness and the sanctity. And that was one of the things that I remember feeling from Coltrane, which is a whole nother scenario.
It seems to me as though some of the basic principles that Sun Ra imparted to you and all of the other masters was the idea that music was supposed to be transformational, interdimensional. It's supposed to transport us from the mundane to the unknown.
That was what he was saying.
Right.
He said, if you're not a myth, whose reality are you? And if you're a reality, then you're not a myth. Whose myth are you?
Okay.
These were some of the conversations that he would project in terms of his, why go to the moon? Try Neptune. Next stop Jupiter, next stop Mars, next stop Jupiter, next stop Mars.
Well, we can say that he was ahead of his time in many ways.
Yeah, in that if we want to, sunny.
Okay, so, Abshalom. Now that you've been here for all this time, and you've contributed so much, like I said, this video is a way of showing the world and showing the youth your great contribution. And where do we go from here in your music? You know, you're creating music now. You're doing your thing more now. You're more free to move around. You're doing all kinds of things. Abshalom is a. Do you call yourself like a gardener, horticulturist, or
I'm just a basic farmer that I've learned how to farm from our Minister of Agriculture, Yadiel Ben Israel, Brother Nathaniel, and Eli Nathan. They were and have been motivational influences in my life relative to agricultural development.
You're a numerologist. How does that factor in at all into your music?
Absolutely, because numbers are accurate. And everything in the universe, as Sun Ra had taught me, is accurate. Going back to Chicago in the early 60s, I was privy to meet a brother by the name of Eddie Perkins, who first introduced me to the science, or what is known as numerology. And at that time it was called, and the other science, astrology. But later here in the community we referred to it as cosmic science.
Oh.
Cosmic science. So I've been privy to study some of those areas as it correlates to, all of these are interrelated subjects, music, sound, and all of these sciences that relate, they're interactive.
So what are your goals for the near future?
To become closer with Yah, to get some land here to reclaim my divine inheritance, some land in Israel and build a home, to continue to give back to our people. And when I say our people, it's not based on color, but to give back to our people a new heaven and a new earth vision. And that was something that I was learning, and I'm still learning, downloading into my computer from Prince Chancellor Shliach, Brother L.A. Bryant, Nasi Shliach. He taught us and is teaching me about a new heaven and a new earth. It says in the scriptures, where there's no vision, the people perish. So all of us have been sent to this dispensation with purpose and dimension and direct. Everybody might not be clear of their direction or their purpose, but that's part of my probing, asking the questions of the universe to continue to assist me in how. Asking questions. Universe, give me some answers. What am I supposed to do here? Because the universe is my friend. The universe is my friend. I'm divinely intended here. So at this point, I look forward to sharing, caring, and giving back. So.
Well, okay, we're going to go ahead and close, but I would be remiss in saying that there are many, many great people that came, pioneers, revolutionaries, however you want to look at it.
Can I interject something? I'm going to do something off the record. I was in Paris staying with my good friend and brother, Kirk Lightsey. Kirk Lightsey is a great pianist. So he came home one day. He said, Abshalom, guess who I just run into in the train station? I said, I got no idea, Kirk. He said, Johnny Griffin. Johnny Griffin was a major saxophonist out of Chicago. I'd met him some years ago. I used to see him in Chicago. Couldn't go in the club. I'd stand outside and watch.
Right.
Anyway, Kirk said, you want his number? I'm condensing all of this, everybody. So I called Mr. Johnny Griffin. He invited me down to his estate. He had an estate in southern France. Took me 3 hours to take the train down there. I was his guest for the day. He came to pick me up in his limousine. So his wife came out, and she went out in the garden, picked vegetables and everything. So I said, Mr. Griffin, he said, just call me Johnny. He said, I said, man, I brought my saxophone, man. I want a saxophone lesson. Give me a saxophone lesson. Give me a He said, calm down, man. Drink some wine and calm down. His wife went down in the cellar, brought out they had a wine cellar, brought out about 10 bottles of wine, asked me to pick out what I didn't know what to do. So she fixed a fantastic vegetarian meal for us.
Wow.
And so I looked at the watch. I said, man, I got to catch the train. We didn't talk. We didn't have a great time. He said, take out your horn and go and play something. So he went to the piano. I started playing something. So he said, go to the bulletin board and read that. So I went over to the bulletin board, and it was a quote by Thelonious Monk. Because Johnny had played a lot with Monk, a lot of other people. You know what the quote was?
No.
By Monk.
What?
A genius is one that is best at being himself. That was my saxophone lesson. A genius is one that is best at being himself.
That is so powerful.
So I'll end on that note. Yeah, I spent the day with Johnny Griffin.
You never did tell a story about Miles Davis.
Maybe that'll be the next time. Because I rode the plane with Jack DeJeanette, my good friend from Chicago. I was living in Philly again. Jack was in New York, and we hooked up in the airport in Philly. We rode. Jack was on his way to do a gig with Miles in Milwaukee. and I guess I'll have to condense this too.
Okay.
When we were flying into Chicago, it was turbulence and everything, so we couldn't land. Me and Jack talked about everything that I can remember. You know, Chicago when he was with Scotty Hope, it was a bass player. They had a duet. At that time in Chicago, Jack was playing piano. He wasn't even known as a drummer. So anyway, he invited me. He said, if you come to Milwaukee, if you come up to Milwaukee, you know, you're my special guest. So lo and behold, I got bus fare to get up to Milwaukee, found the place and everything. And so I'm saying, I'm Mr. D. Jeanette's guest. So he said, oh yeah, come on in, Abshalom, come on have a seat. So I get in, wasn't nobody in the club because I got there early. So it was Gary Bartz on alto, Jack was on drums, Miles, I forget the piano and bass player. Anyway, the gig is over. I'm condensing all this. The gig is over. So Jack come and get me. He said, man, you want to meet Miles? I said, yeah, man. So he take me back. So Miles is sitting down. He just chilling, real sharp. He on a leather suit and some hip boots. So Jack said, hey, man, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. He play alto. He said, can the motherfucker play? He said, well, I ain't heard him in a long time because he played with Sunrise. He said, yeah, I dig Sonny. So, anyway, I said, man, I like where you dress, man. He said, man, that's where I dig, that's where I carry it, Jack.
You sound just like that.
So this sister's looking at me, and I'm looking at her. He said, man, don't be looking at my woman like that, Jack.
No, he didn't.
I said, so she said, Virgil, is that you? That was my name when I was to school before I changed it. I said, Cherry Brewer. And so she come over and grabbed some young, he said, I don't want to use the word again. He said, don't be squeezing my woman. Motherfucker, don't be squeezing on my woman. So Cherry was a high school cheerleader. She was a couple years younger than me. Anyway, that was Miles' lady. So that was my introduction.
So
to
you
Miles
really
Davis.
got out with Miles Davis.
Yeah, she was a cute, well, she was with Miles, but she was a little cutie in high school and still in Cherry Brewer. If you're still with us, hallelujah. That was my introduction. Thanks to Jack D. Jeanette, my good friend. So
this is a wealth of information here, and what I want to do is I'm encouraging Abshalom to get a channel on YouTube so that he can put up so many of these video clips that he has, so that he can feature so much of the music that he has, because he is a walking encyclopedia when it comes to music and the evolution of music from the 60s all the way up until now.
I might as well interject this too. Not me personally, but the spirit within was responsible for me bringing Billy Cobham to the community, Frank Foster, the Neville Brothers.
That's right. You'll see that too. The Persuasions.
The Persuasions.
There was so many people that came.
The drummer and the bass player when they were with McCoy Tyner.
It's okay because all of it, you'll see it all.
Louis Hayes. Louis Hayes and Avery Sharp. I was able to bring them down to the community. I brought a group of famous Brazilian musicians down to the community to see what we were doing, impacting, and a lot of other people perhaps I've forgotten, but anyway, those are some of the major influences that we've been blessed to interact with and to bring them down to Dimona to see the, as we refer to, the kingdom of God on earth at this dispensation.
Well, the light continues to shine from Jerusalem.
Yes, it is.
And so I'll be coming back. And there's a lot more good things, light, as I say, coming from Jerusalem. So just stay in tune because there's so much to share. Okay, so I want to thank my special guest, Abshalom ben Shlomo.
And we are grateful and appreciative. We want to thank you. And for the looking, listening audience, we're grateful and appreciative for your participation. And we love you.
We do. Okay, so everybody stay tuned. Keep on the lookout for SAR's new channel that I'm going to help him get started. Don't forget to subscribe, post, make comments, ask questions. And with that, we love you. And peace out.